One major development here in the region is that Israel is increasingly turning its attention to the Far East. We talked with former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Dore Gold, about this phenomenon. Ambassador Gold, thank you for being with us. You just came back from India. What was the purpose of your trip?
The Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs was actually invited by an Indian think tank, which was very close to the government of Prime Minister Modi. And we were interested in enhancing Israeli-Indian ties, looking at similar perceptions of what's going on in the world, and seeing whether we might do joint studies in the future.
Do you see a growing relationship between Israel and India?
Unquestionably, there are growing interests, a shared interest between India and Israel. And you can see that now in terms of how the two countries address each other, the relationship of Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Is this a growing trend, not only with India, but Israel reaching out to other nations in Asia like China and Japan?
You know, there's no decision to do an Israeli pivot to Asia, as there has been an American decision to make a pivot of that sort.
Sure.
But at the same time, this outreach of Israel to Asia and Asia's outreach to Israel is just accelerating all the time. There's another point also, that in much of Israel's commercial ties with Europe, all these conditions are now placed on our business relationships. If there's a product that comes out of the West Bank, then maybe the European Union has to oppose it. I don't want to get into all the details, but it creates a certain burden in the relationship. And when you go to the East, that burden isn't there.
No restrictions like that?
No. You know, the classic peace process issues, which are always in the beginning of some discussion, if you go to London, Paris, or Berlin, they're just not there when you're in New Delhi or Beijing or Tokyo. The focus is how can these countries work together for to advance their common interest.
And what's the benefit to the capitals of Asia, Beijing, Hong Kong, Tokyo? Why are they reaching out to Israel?
Well, I think they see that Israel is an Asian tiger. In other words, they see that Israel's knowledge base in advanced information technologies and medical science and all the fields that are important today, both from a standpoint of what countries want to have in terms of their own capabilities, but also in terms of how do you boost your efficiency and your GNP. You go into these industries. So I think they see Israel's natural advantages in these areas, and they simply want to cooperate more extensively.
I know you say this is not a pivot, but is some of it an outgrowth of the growing terrorism in places like Paris or France, or and perhaps a growing animus, I guess, in Europe towards the Jewish state?
Well, you know, Israel's had its issues with Europe for many years now. And I don't think people in Israel are saying we've had it with Europe, but there is something embracing about the relationships that Israel's establishing in the Pacific Rim. And I think you're going to see more of that in the future.
Okay, Ambassador Gold, thank you very much for
Sure.
being with us.